What up, good people? It's me, Johnny, back at it again with another video. And Marvel Studios recently released Captain America Brave New World. Well, released a trailer for it. And I have to say, I didn't get the same hype feeling that I did when I watched the Quantum Mania trailer. Now, that's probably because that trailer was so great, only to have the movie let me down. And I promised myself that I would never have faith in Marvel Studios again with their trailers when they actually come out to be pretty good. But I will admit that this trailer was actually a good one. And I want to talk about it and tie it back to Marvel Comics and what I hope they will do in the movie. I'll leave timestamps in the description of the video to the different parts that I will be talking about so you can skip forward to the different parts, what I thought about the trailer, then my character breakdown for Sam Wilson's Captain America, and then the Red Hulk. First, though, let me give my thoughts on the upcoming movie. From what we know, there have been plenty of reshoots of this thing, seven, I believe, to be exact, hopefully to give us a good story to be told instead of the horrible crap that Marvel has been putting out lately. We got a ton of stuff in this trailer, which will help tie in some things in the MCU, like seeing the dead celestial Tiamat that we last saw in the Eternals, or maybe some of you didn't see because that movie was awful. But anyway, that showed up in the screen where Sam was flying through the battle that was seemingly happening there, to adamantium seemingly being given to Ross and the government to help most likely create other super soldiers, since that has always been something that the government has wanted to do, since Steve Rogers was basically done, which also caused, men like Isaiah Bradley to be subject to horrible things that made them super soldiers. Speaking of that, Isaiah showed up in the trailer as well, which I like. Marvel, bringing him back. And they kind of paid a homage to the scene in Civil War where Baron Zito activated Bucky by saying, the code, if you will. And it looks like that music that was playing in the trailer kind of started to activate Isaiah Bradley's basically sleeper soldier in the trailer. The trailer also gave us the Red Hulk, which I will go more in depth into later, as I mentioned. And, some reports that Sam will be fighting him in the movie. Since Sam is not a super soldier, nor was he in the comics, I believe that we are going to get the Hulk to actually show back up to help him fight him, because otherwise, I don't see how Sam is supposed to actually beat him, but we will see. I do know there's been reports that the suit or the wings that Sam has that's shown in that trailer are made out of vibranium, from Wakanda. But even with that, I still don't see how he's supposed to beat the Red Hulk on his own. This is the next MCU movie that we know we're supposed to get after Deadpool and Wolverine. So for me, even if Deadpool and Wolverine is good, which I actually expect it to be, I won't take it as this movie is going to be good, not going to draw that correlation. I'll wait and see if Marvel makes this one a solid movie. And if they do that, then maybe I'll say Kevin Feige and Marvel, or at least starting to get back on track to making good movies and good shows. Well, at least good movies anyway. I don't know about the shows, but at least good movies like we have seen in Phase 3 and obviously in the past. There were some other characters also that showed up in the trailer, that one of them, Diamondback, who in the comics anyway was a part of the Serpent Society. And then there's Giancarlo Esposito's character that we actually haven't got much info yet, or at least not info that I've seen. But if you've been able to find out more about his role, let me know about that in the comments. I do think this movie has potential to be good, mainly because, yes, Sam Wilson's Captain America in the trailer did look pretty good. I'm not going to lie, I like Anthony Mackie playing that role. And then we got introduced to the Red Hulk at the end of the trailer. And I want to talk about those two main characters of the movie, kind of give a brief character breakdown for both, of course, according to Marvel Comics. But first, also rest in peace to William Hunt, who played the character Thunderbolt Ross, and we already know he passed away in 2022, which is why they brought in Harrison Ford to play that character. In the trailer, I think he mentioned that, hey, well, hey, you got a new look. He said, well, I had to, lose the mustache to win the election, kind of trying to, play up the fact that, yes, I am a new person playing this character, but I am playing it nonetheless. But first, let me start with Sam Wilson. We all know him to have been the Falcon in the comics and in the MCU, but in the comics, he was introduced way back in 1969 in Captain America issue number 117, but he officially took over the mantle of Captain America in Captain America Volume number 7, issue number 25, that came out in October of 2014. This happened right after Steve Rogers was forced to step down when the super soldier serum was nullified by the Iron Nail, I believe that villain was, which caused Steve to age rather quickly, so he could no longer actually be Captain America. After this, Sam got his first solo comic in the all new Captain America issue number 1 that came out in January of 2015. And his run as Captain America kind of ran until 2017. And I think that came to a head in Generation Sam Wilson's Captain America and Steve Rogers' Captain America issue number 1. During this run, Sam Wilson became the leader of the Avengers. And after learning that S.H.I.E.L.D. was creating its own cosmic cube of sorts, and this was an action that Sam was totally against. He kind of quit working for the government and he, chose to be a hero whose priority was more of the people versus what the government actually wanted him to do. After the cosmic cube was finished, though, it actually ended up giving Steve Rogers back his powers and youth. And for a little while in the comic that I just referenced, that's where you saw both Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson playing Captain America or being simultaneously Captain America. Since Sam's character in the MCU is pretty well established about, his origin, where he is, I don't want to spend a lot of time on Sam Wilson, but instead, I want to actually transition and talk about Thaddeus Ross, aka Thunderbolt Ross' character, and then I want to focus on the version of him that we are getting in the movie in the Red Hulk because, well, Red Hulk is pretty dope and was pretty popular in the comics. His character was first introduced in the Incredible Hulk issue number 1 that came out in May of 1962, created, of course, by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Now, some of you might be thinking, Johnny, I read that comic. You actually just talked about it on your last video about how to fix the Incredible Hulk, and I don't remember the Red Hulk being in it. Well, since Thunderbolt Ross is the Red Hulk, his character and origin really is kind of wonky, and it came out in that comic. But here's what I mean by wonky, though. Other than the comic that I just mentioned, he also appeared in Tales of the Astonished, I believe, number 61, that came out in 1959. And then later in the Incredible Hulk issue number 291, that came out in January of 1984. So as you can see, Thunderbolt Ross's origin story is kind of spread out a bit over the variety of different Hulk stories. Also, for the sake of not getting my video banned by YouTube, I had to remove the object that was in the hand of Ross on the cover of that comic, The Incredible Hulk issue number 291. But if you have read the comic, then you know what was in it. And if you don't, you can Google it and look it up. I can't say the word or put it on screen because YouTube would undoubtedly ban my video. Anyway, Ross, much like we have seen in the MCU, was a part of the military in comics and was a part of the Army Air Forces before the name change to the United States Air Force was done later on down the line. In real life, by the way, this actually happened that it was really named the Army Air Forces, and then later in 1947, it actually changed over to the United States Air Force. Just fun fact there. But as Ross went on with his military career, he was promoted quickly, in my opinion. And this was done due to his family ties in the military, though in Marvel Comics, that wasn't actually officially confirmed or anything like that. Fast forward a bit to after he received the title of captain for the work he did while fighting in World War II. He was later stationed in a facility in New Mexico, and this was where Bruce Banner ended up becoming the Hulk. Doing this stint, though, in this facility, Ross didn't actually like it. Pretty much, he was a military guy, a fighting guy, and being stuck in that facility really behind a desk wasn't really his thing. And then on top of that, he was always at odds with Bruce, who was the overseer, if you will, of the facility, because Ross thought things should be run a certain way. And on top of that, his daughter and Betty Ross, who I'm sure we will see at some point in the MCU, and I think she actually ended up becoming the Red Hulk or the red female version of the Red Hulk later in Marvel Comics. But she actually liked Bruce in the comics, and that was much to Thunderbolt Ross's disdain. Ross didn't actually find out until later that Bruce was the Incredible Hulk, and that was, oh, I believe that came in the Incredible Hulk issue number 124. And ever since then, Ross wanted that smoke with Bruce. Now, the reason for that, outside of his disdain for his daughter actually liking Bruce and them inevitably, getting married in the comics anyway, was the fact that Ross, being a military guy, saw Bruce as a beta man, and the fact that this type of guy, one, shouldn't be with his daughter, and two, him becoming this overly strong brute that is seemingly invincible. Yeah, Ross wasn't feeling that too much at all. And ever since then, really wanted to kill Bruce. I know in the comic he talked about wanting to capture him, and that's what the story he told his daughter, but in actuality, he actually wanted to kill the guy. I'm curious though how in the MCU they're going to try to tie, Bruce and Thunderbolt Ross together because their stories, Ross's and Bruce's, are intertwined a lot in the comics, and we've already seen Thunderbolt Ross established in the MCU and kind of Bruce Banner, and they really didn't have a lot of, interactions or connections like that. I guess they could do a flashback to kind of show some stuff of how it happened, but I mean, that would kind of make it feel thrown in, but I guess we'll just have to see how Marvel is going to bring these two together in the MCU. Now, to get to the Red Hulk version of Thunderbolt Ross, we actually saw that actually come out in January of 2008. And that was in the Hulk Volume 2, issue number 1 storyline. When he first appeared, the way he was introduced, no one really knew if the Red Hulk was a good guy or a bad guy. For starters, he showed up and, killed the Abomination in one of his stories, who had given the Hulk all he could handle a lot throughout the comic, but he ended up just pretty much killing him. He appeared in a group called the Offenders, which I believe was supposed to be the antithesis of the Defenders. And then in one comic, he stole the power cosmic from the Silver Surfer. So, yeah, for a little bit in comics, it really actually wasn't definitively stated what type of character he was. It wasn't until I would say Avengers Volume 4, issue number 7, that came out in 2011, where we got an answer as to Red Hulk being a actually good guy. Now, how Thunderbolt Ross became the Red Hulk was due to exposure to gamma radiation with the help of MODOK. Since becoming the Red Hulk, unlike Bruce though in Marvel Comics, he can no longer go back to his human form because the Red Hulk form requires him to absorb energy, and if he went back to his human form, well, he would basically just die. So Thunderbolt Ross in the comics has to stay that. I think that was also a way to kind of retcon them not really having to show Thunderbolt Ross anymore and just sticking with the Red Hulk character in comics. In the MCU, if I was a betting man, I don't think they will go through with this story or how the Red Hulk plays in comics. They might do that, but we'll just have to see. That's the long and short of both of these characters. But let me know your thoughts in the comments about this movie, these characters, and what you think the MCU will do with them in the Captain America Brave New World movie. But until the next video, I will talk to you all later. Take care.